Hi everyone, welcome to part 3 of my Power Move series. So far in the last 2 parts we talked about the importance of bending and extending the trail arm, and last week I talked about how the left arm moves across the chest, and in part 3 I'm going to be talking about a specific movement in your wrists that's also vital in producing speed and power. The specific movement that I will be talking about is the hinging and unhinging of the lead wrist. And I want you to understand that without having this movement built into your swing correctly, it'll be very difficult for you to produce speed. If you haven't watched the first 2 parts of the series, then I highly recommend that you do, just so that you can have a better understanding of how things may be connected. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you are visiting my channel for the first time, please hit that subscribe button to see more golf-related content in the future. Now, talking about the wrist can be a very complicated subject just because the wrist can move in so many different ways. So to avoid as much confusion as possible, I want to quickly demonstrate how the wrists move, and it can move in 3 ways. So if you were to just pay attention to my lead wrist, the first movement is an extension or flexion of the wrist, which would be more of a cupping or bowing of the lead wrist. The second movement is a rotation of the wrist, which is also one of the 4 power moves, but I'll be discussing this in more detail next week. And the third movement is radial and ulnar deviation, also known as hinging or unhinging of the wrist, which will be today's topic. So now that you know the specific movement of the wrist that I'll be talking about, let me explain how this can apply to your ability to produce speed. Alright, so there's a quick little experiment that you can do to better understand this concept, and you're going to make 2 practice swings. Okay, so for the first practice swing, you're going to want to limit your ability to hinge and unhinge the wrist. So when you're making this swing, you want to place your wrist in the most unhinged position or the most ulnar deviated position like this, and you're not going to allow the wrist to hinge and unhinge through the swing. Okay? So with the wrist in this position like this, the most ulnar deviated position, you can get your setup, and in the backswing, you're gonna keep it in that position, and even on the way through, you're gonna keep it in that position, and you're gonna try to swing the club as fast as you can. Okay, so you go back and through. Okay, it might feel a little bit awkward. Now, for the second swing, you're gonna allow your wrist to hinge on the way back, and then unhinge on the way down, and then again rehinge into the fall through. So when you do that, you should immediately be able to tell that you can swing the club significantly faster once again. So the reason why you're able to swing it much faster, hinging and unhinging the club, is because 1, when I allow my lead wrist to hinge the club, that's what allows the club head to move higher into my backswing. The second reason is that on the way down, when I unhinge the lead wrist, that movement is what applies a lot more downward force into the golf ball. Okay? And 3, when I rehinge the club into the fall through, that's what allows the club head to continue to accelerate past the ball and to continue to move faster than the rest of my body. This movement is often associated with what you probably know as lag in the downswing. So after watching this video, you should have a better understanding of the specific science behind that term. Obviously, not everyone has to create a crazy amount of hinge or unhinge in their swing, because it has to match up with the other 4 movements in this series, and is unique to each individual and their own swing mechanics. So it's important to note that the amount that you hinge the lead wrist will depend on your ability to unhinge the wrist or unhinge the club at the correct moment at impact. So like I explained in the last 2 parts, it's very important that you're able to get the lead arm and the club in a straight line, more so immediately after impact. So if you are a player that has an above average amount of hinge in the backswing and the downswing, as long as you're able to get into this position, then you are someone that is able to coordinate the unhinging of the wrist at impact. But if you try and overhinge the wrist on the way up and on the way down, if you're not able to get yourself into this position after impact, then having excessive amount of hinging may not be suitable for your swing pattern. But regardless of swing patterns and swing mechanics, every golfer must have a certain degree of hinging and unhinging in the downswing for them to optimize speed and power. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video gave you some more insight about the golf swing and how speed is actually produced. Be sure to tune into the final part of the series next week. You can also visit my Instagram at Jonathan K. Moss to inquire about my online lessons. I will also leave the link to my website in the description below. But other than that, I will see you guys next week.